Okay. A very good morning to all, and I welcome you all to the lecture on heat transfer for chemical engineers. Uh, Today we'll be starting with a new topic, boiling and condensation. Before that, I will like to give a small recap of the topics that we have learned so far. So we started with what is heat transfer and learned that there are three modes of heat transfer: conduction, convection, and radiation. Of these three topics, we had a very detailed discussion on conduction and convection. We kind of did some mathematical analysis as well. We found out the relations for H, which turns out to be of some functions of Reynolds number, Prandtl number. We did then we extended this particular point, and then we went on to understand the design of heat exchangers, wherein we understood two types of heat exchangers in detail. First one was double pipe, and second one was shell and tube. Now, in all these processes that we learned, in all of these processes that we learned so far, we only had one single phase. We had only one single phase. Now, today we are going to focus on processes which involves change of the phase. So will involve with the processes that involves phase change. So phase change can be from solid to vapors, or vice versa, or from liquid to vapors and vice versa. So solid liquid, this double arrow indicates from any direction. We will study from both the directions, and then liquid vapor. All right. And our main target over here is to develop an appreciation for the physical conditions that are associated in this process, and we now need to provide some basis for performing heat transfer related calculations for these changes. So now the question arises, where do we see them? Where do we see these processes? Why do we want to understand this thing? So industry requires boilers to heat water, convert it into steam, and then steam is used in so many processes. Then if you go to any distillation tower in any petrochemical industry, or it requires a boiler and a condenser. So boiler basically boils it, so boiling coming into picture. Condenser is condensing the vapors, so condensation is coming into picture. We had discussed a example where methanol was cooled. Methanol was cooled in the double pipe heat exchanger. When the methanol is produced in an industry, it's in the form of a vapor. First, it has to be converted into liquid, and then it has to be cooled. So in that particular problem, we just said it is in one single phase, there is no phase change, and we try to solve that problem. But now, to design equipment where a phase change has to take place, we need to understand these two phenomena and how heat transfer calculations have to be done for this particular thing. Then if you go to, so this was all about boilers in chemical industries. You can also find a lot of boilers and condensers combined, both boilers and condensers in power plants. So in a power plant, they use turbines to generate electricity, and to operate the turbines or to power the turbines they use steam. So again, to generate the steam, they use the boiler, and then the vapors that are exiting from the turbine are then restored to again liquid, condensed, again heated. So they have boilers and condensers in the power industry also. So these are main industries or main applications as to why we wish to understand this topic of boiling and condensation. All right. So in power generation plants, all right. Also, condensers are most commonly seen in our refrigerators as well. So we have a vapor compression refrigeration cycle. So even in if you see a day-to-day example of condensation equipment that actually does condensation, it can be a refrigerator. So these are some of the examples, and to design all these equipments that I listed and cases, we must understand boiling and condensation. All right. So if you remember our discussions on convection or convective heat transfer, our idea was to understand all our energy, or idea was to find out the value of H. And we said that this H is the heat transfer coefficient when the heat is getting transferred across some sort of boundary, or from one phase to other, like from the solid metal to the fluid on the other side of the tube, like that. And for that, we had to do a boundary layer analysis. And the sole target of our boundary layer analysis was to find out a correlation, a good correlation for H. I hope you remember. You can always go back to this class and see how we did it, why we did it. We have I have discussed that in depth over there. Now, the key step in boundary layer analysis was, after writing all the governing equations, in the boundary layer analysis, we wrote the governing equations. We kind of non-dimensionalized them. Okay. Dimensionalized. And then we found out some good physical relations, and based on it, we simplified the process for getting H. We said H is a function of Reynolds number and Prandtl number. So basically, we find out Reynolds number and Prandtl number, then we will be given either equations. We'll be given some equations, or from using graphs or figures, we can find out the value of H and we can solve the problem. This was the main idea, right? So here also, in boiling and condensation, now we'll be working on the similar lines. So let's start. So boiling and condensation are again phenomena which involve convective heat transfer, or they are convective in nature. So first point is it's convective. So the best equation, or the best what we can say heat transfer equation would be Newton's law of cooling. So we'll be having the basic heat transfer expressed by H is equal to HA delta T. So I'll simply write delta T as of now. What is this delta T? We'll be coming to that very soon. Secondly, now this boiling and condensation will depend on so many parameters, various parameters. So let me just dive into that example, a small example of boiling, and I would like to tell you how all these parameters are how they play a role. So let's say you have a vessel. And you have filled some water in it. You have a vessel filled with water. You are putting this vessel on a burner to boil this water. So maybe you're preparing a cup of tea for yourself, or a hot or plate of Maggie. So you take this vessel and you're trying to heat it on a burner. All right. So what we are more interested in is how actually this boiling or heating of the water taking place. So this particular burner is now providing heat to the water. So basically it will transfer some heat from this metal, the bottom of your saucer or vessel, to the first layer of water over here. Then this water will take this heat, transfer it to the next layer, so on and so forth. It will reach to this point, and when this fluid reaches the temperature Ts, which is the saturation temperature, after that particular temperature, the water will start boiling. So basically water bubbles, vapor bubbles will start coming out from this surface, and you'll be seeing some nice water vapors coming out from here. Once this has reached Ts, which is your saturation temperature. So for water, this is 100 degrees Celsius for the pressure of 1 atmosphere. So for the case of water, this is 100 degrees Celsius when your outside temperature is 1 atmosphere. All right. I hope everything is clear till now. A simple raise of hands. And if you have any doubts, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask. Okay. All right. So this is what is happening. Okay. Now I try to increase the heat from this particular burner. मैं और ज़्यादा heat देने की कोशिश करता हूँ. So what you can see at that time is now some small bubbles forming over here, and then these bubbles rise up and go away. Right. So this is also a way in which the water starts to boil. So we have now basically seen two ways of in which the boiling has been done. I will be formally characterizing them and naming them in near future in this class. As of now, I just wanted you to understand these two things. Now, once you are very clear with these two ways, like water transferring the heat from here to here, this particular layer is now at the saturation, and some heat is being still passed on to this particular layer, and now it is giving away this and now water molecule from this surface is going out in the form of vapor. So for this process to occur, what are the various factors that are going to play a role? Obviously, first factor which anyone will surely say is the delta T, the temperature difference between the surface and the fluid, right? So basically I will write T S, which is the temperature of the surface, minus T sat. This is one key factor. Second factor is Now the surface tension. Why surface tension? So look at this particular case. The water now has to break this particular surface and go out. So it has to break that surface tension. So tomorrow I change a fluid which is having higher surface tension. It will require more energy to go out, right? So surface tension will play a role when it has to actually go away from this particular liquid phase. So that energy is again coming to picture, and who will provide that energy? The burner over here. So more energy requirements are required, and so basically surface tension at the liquid vapor interface is the second parameter that can play a role. Now uh, remember the second case where I said now we also see some small vapor bubbles being formed, and now these vapor bubbles travel up and go out, right? So what is the driving force for these vapor bubbles to go up? It's the buoyancy force. It's the buoyancy force that is driving those vapor bubbles to go up because of the density difference between the two phases. See, a small vapor bubble was formed over here. Small vapor bubble was formed over here. The density of this vapor bubble will for sure be lesser than the density of the water. And we have seen that this particular difference in the density will give rise to the buoyancy force, and it will push the bubble upwards. It will try to push this bubble upward. So this bubble will experience an upward force, which is termed as buoyancy force. I am very sure you must have learned this in your fluid mechanics classes. So uh, yeah, buoyancy force is the third parameter, and this buoyancy force is better is basically m into g times rho l minus rho v. So I'll just write g into rho l minus rho v because that is particular the constant parameter mass will change according to the bubble size. So this factor is the one based on the system, and m is the mass of the vapor that particular bubble that has been formed. Now if I change the fluid and its latent heat changes, now whenever this fluid has to go from one phase to other, whenever whenever such exchanges have to be are going to take place, here latent heats are exchanged. Okay, so when a liquid has to go from liquid to vapor, it has to take latent heat of vaporization, right? And whenever it has to come from vapor to liquid, it has to give away that energy. Here it also latent heats are getting exchanged. So from ice to water, some latent heat is exchanged. From water to become ice, it has to give away some latent heat. So the third factor that I feel which is important over here, rather it's the fourth one, it's the latent heat. All right, so we are done with 4. Yeah, now some more parameters that can that always plays a role because it's a convective heat transfer. So we have already seen viscosity, decay of the solid. I mean, these are now the rest parameters that I'm writing. We have already discussed them in our lectures on convective heat transfer, and hence I'm straight away writing them. So mu, the Cp value, Cp mu k, density, characteristic length scale of, so basically in this particular case this will be this length. All right, and what are we missing out? G हो गया, delta T, rho, latent heat. All right, yeah. So basically, these are the 9 particular parameters on which your complete process of boiling or the heat transfer will be depending. So now we need to understand the effects of these 9 particular parameters in detail. Now, the question that can come to your mind is, sir, in the last discussion whenever we had regarding this particular topic, you always said कि we will write the governing equations and then we'll non-dimensionalize and do it. Why don't we do it in this particular case like that? So doing such analysis over here is very difficult. I will tell you why. So let's say this is some small area which I have highlighted from this particular place. I mean, this was the solid wall. Now there are if some sort of bubbles are being formed like this, these are all different phases. I cannot apply the same equation at this point and at this point, at this point and at this point. I have to apply one set of equations for this, then there will be another set of equations for it. The same equations I have to apply differently on these particular red circles. Then there will be one equation for this bulk, then one equation for here. So there will be so many equations over set of equations, and things will become very much complicated. So it's not a good idea to actually start with the basic governing equations, take a mass, because it's not a continuous phase, you know. I can start it. So from here, यहाँ पे तो लिक्विड था, ओके, यहाँ पे वेपर का बबल आ गया, ओके, आई नीड टू हैव अनदर सेट ऑफ इक्वेशन. यहाँ से आगे गया, लिक्विड था, ओके, आई कैन स्टिल कंटिन्यू, बट एक वेपर का ड्रॉप आ गया. So there can be hundreds and thousands of vapor drops, and that will simply increase the complexity of the system. So basically we cannot start our particular approach for getting H with this starting point. So rather what we'll use is, we know that to find out at what rate the thing the liquid is getting boiled, or at what rate this is getting condensed using this particular expression, and for this particular expression I need to know the value of H. To know the value of H, I cannot start with governing equation this time, but I know that this particular H depends on how many factors which are listed over here, and I now can generate those 9 non-dimensionalized groups and a relation for H. So and I can do this using a nice theorem called as Buckingham Pi theorem. So let me ask you, do you guys know about this theorem, or we need to discuss about this in detail, or yeah, do you know about this theorem, or we should discuss this over here? Yeah, anyone? Yeah, Rutuja. So do you guys know about this theorem, or we should discuss this?
We know the method, basic theorem.
Okay, that is great. But okay, so you basically know the method how to do it, right? So what I will do is, I will not discuss the method in detail. I will discuss more of the philosophy, why we are going to use Buckingham Pi theorem, how to use it, and where you can use it in your future as well. Sounds great.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Others, you are okay with it? Or we should go for the full-fledged the derivation of Buckingham pi, why, how, etc., etc. Okay. Uh, okay, so you are okay with we going to the understanding the philosophy of using the Buckingham pi theorem, and you can always try this particular problem yourself, or I will or you can ask me later. I will provide you the notes to solve this particular piece. All right. So are you guys clear with the 9 variables on which this process of boiling or condensation will depend on?
Hello, sir.
Yes. Yes, I
Sir,
can.
will velocity affect the boiling or condensation? Velocity of fluid.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, sir.
So as of now, what I can say is we will do this particular analysis where the fluid is stationary. We are not externally putting some sort of stirrer or something in the liquid and try to cool it out or heat it out. Okay, we have a fluid and we are not providing external forced convection to it, is a good word. Okay, or external convection to it. Sai Kiran, does this clear your doubt?
Yes, sir. Definitely.
Velocity will, so in conclusion, velocity is going to affect this particular problem. It should be a variable over here, but as of now we are just considering the case where no forced convection or external convection is coming here. Rather, no external convection is coming here. Forced to आने वाला है, external नहीं है, right? Okay. I guess everyone is clear with it. And now are you clear with the fact that why we cannot use governing equations to start? I mean, why we cannot go with this particular and way of solving the things? Take governing equation non-dimensionalize and go ahead, because of so many states coming into picture. Okay, Rituja raised hand. Kaushik, okay. Pahuni. Okay, she's also fine. Kaushik. Yeah, okay, great. So you guys are okay with the fact that we cannot use governing equations. So in all such cases where governing equations cannot be used, we can always go for Buckingham pi theorem. In fact, in many experiments also, if you are going to design some experiment to understand some phenomena, and you need to scale that process up, or you need to understand how all these parameters are going to play a role. So maybe you start with some reactor and some reaction is taking place. You don't know on what all parameters this whole thing is going to take place. So you can always use this Buckingham pi theorem. So what does this Buckingham pi theorem says is, first tell me the total number of variables in the process, right? So in this process we have 9 variables and a 10th one that we need to find out, h. So basically we have 10 variables. Then the Buckingham pi theorem says all these variables can be expressed in how many basic dimensions. So we have mass, we have length, time, temperature, all those things, right? So basically in how many dimensions can we express these 10 variables? So to in all all the 10 dimensions that have been written above can be expressed in 5 different dimensions. So then this theorem says that this particular system can be expressed in the form of 5 pi groups. So basically 10 minus 5 which is equal to 5 pi groups would be present, right? And the analysis is pretty much simple. What you do is you take every variable say you take rho, the unit of rho is kg per meter cube, then you can write it as m1 L minus 3, and then you say that I select any 5 of them, I raise them to the power a, b, c, d, e, and now I need to find out the values of a, b, c, d, e such that it is a non-dimensional thing, and you typically solve it, and you get the 5 non-dimensional terms. So if you try to solve this particular problem using Buckingham Pi theorem, you will be getting an expression like this. So our target is to find h, so I want to keep it on the on one side of the equation. So a very important, what I can say, non-dimensional number that involves h is the Nusselt number. So I keep Nusselt number on one side and I express this in terms of the other 4 non-dimension number or dimensionless numbers. So the groups that are formed are as follows. Rho f to the power L cube by mu square. The second group formed is Cp delta T by lambda, mu Cp by K. Oh, 1, 2, 3. There's fourth one also. G rho L minus rho V times L square over sigma. Yeah. So basically, these are the five groups that are formed, and we express one particular non-dimension. I mean, when we express one dimensionless group as the function of other 4, and this particular expression that I have written over here is the governing equation, or this particular expression now can be said as the final governing equation for or a single equation that relates all the variables of your process. Is this clear, guys? What about others?
Sir, in this equation, rho is density of liquid only, na, sir?
How is
Density of liquid only, na, sir?
density of liquid only?
Is this density of liquid or density of vapor, sir?
Rho L minus rho V. Density of liquid minus density of vapor. Because individual densities are playing a role, but more important factor is this rho L minus rho V. And this particular is the density of liquid.
So for the first dimensionless,
So okay, for the first dimensionless number, this is rho L.
Okay.
Yeah, so this okay, so the density that I was talking over here was rho L. Okay. All right. And then we already know that this particular friend of ours to be Nusselt number. We have seen the physical significance of this number a lot of times, and I won't be discussing this again. This particular number we have again seen. This is your Prendel's number. We have again seen this. We are pretty much familiar with it, but now we are not familiar with the other terms that are evolving over here, and it's good to understand them. So this particular term over here is called as Jacob's number. Jacob, and this number Jacob then और कौन सा parameter रह गया? Yeah, this particular thing over here is called Bond's number. And this some over here is something very similar to Grashoff's number. All right. So what is Jacob number? So Jacob number is the ratio of maximum sensible energy absorbed by liquid to the latent energy absorbed by liquid in the condensation. So this is, तो सेंसिबल हीट मतलब वो हीट जिसको हम सेंस कर सकते हैं. हीट कौन सी हम सेंस कर सकते हैं? हम वही हीट सेंस कर सकते हैं जिसके साथ टेम्परेचर चेंज एसोसिएटेड है. सो mcp delta T will be the heat that is sensible. Lambda is something which is not sensible to us. Water at 100 degrees Celsius and vapor at 100 degrees Celsius have both 100 same temperature. So that is something which cannot be sensed by a temperature measuring device. So Jacob number essentially talks about the ratio of sensible heat adsorbed to the latent heat. Adsorbed. And this is mcp delta T, and this is m times lambda. So this is cp delta T over lambda. All right. So how this number will come into picture? Let's say you have a fluid at 25 degrees Celsius. You have water at 25 degrees Celsius, and now you are going to make Maggi out of it. So you need to boil it to 100 degrees Celsius. So 25 to 100, there will be some sensible heat getting adsorbed first, or sensible heating. Sorry, the word should be absorbed. Yeah, AB. So it will first absorb the sensible heat, then it will take the latent heat, and then it will boil. Right. So this number talks about that. So tomorrow you are now in Nagpur, back to campus, hot weather, typical summers. Water is not at 25 degrees Celsius anymore, and it is something at around 30. You are again preparing a plate of Maggi for yourself, and now you need to calculate the amount of energy required to make Maggi or to boil water basically. Then this particular number, Jacob's number, would change, and then you can easily find out what would be the case. So every time any change in the initial temperature can be accommodated by this particular number. And in most of the cases, in general, basically latent heat is a very big number. So this particular term over here is a very big number. So a cp delta T value is very, very small in front of this, and this number is very much small, and basically it has small numerical value. This particular number has a very small numerical value. All right, let's talk about the second number in the discussion, which was Bond's number. So Bond's number is the ratio of buoyancy force to the surface tension force. We saw that there are two forces that are going to play a role for the vapor to go away, vapor to get out of the liquid phase. So if the bubbles are forming at the bottom and now they have to go out of the liquid, It is the buoyancy force that drives the process. So vapors were formed at the bottom, they had to go up, buoyancy force was pushing them and they go out. And if the vapors are getting formed at the surface of the liquid and vapor interface, so it is basically the surface tension that plays a role, because they have to break it and go out. So this particular number, Bond's number, talks about this, and we'll see their particular roles in detail in the upcoming parts. So is everything clear until this point? All right. All right. Okay. So now what we'll try to understand is the boiling curve. We can do it over here. Okay. Okay. So now our discussion will proceed to understand the boiling curve as to how, see, what we know is Q, which is the rate at which the heat is getting transferred, has to be equal to H times T surface, from which the heat is getting transferred to the fluid temperature, T sat, the saturation temperature, right? We know this particular expression, and now we want to understand whether this particular Q, sorry, whether this particular H depends only on this or this, and we have already seen that it depends on this as well. And how it depends on delta T, how H depends on delta T, or rather how Q depends on delta T. It's not a straight away relation, because H is also a function of delta T and Q is also a function of delta T. So the net relation doesn't look to be a simple straight line. If you would have plotted this particular curve, it would have looked something like this. When delta T equals 0, H will be equal to 0. So this is 0, 0. Is everyone clear with this? And this will have a nice slope H. Is everyone clear with this? Yes, Sai Kaushik Pahuni.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So why, now we'll understand why we why this particular straight line thing is not coming into picture, what is actually happening, because of which H is also becoming a function of delta T and Q is also becoming a function of delta T in turn, not a straight function but a complex function, where, so to understand this, there was a scientist named Nukiyami. He was the first one to do this. So we'll first discuss his work. There was a scientist named Nukiyami who did an experiment to find out this case of boiling curve. What he did was, he took a pool of water, and he then inserted a wire across the pool. So this is how Nukiyami's setup look like. He took a pool of water, then he had a wire inserted in it, and then the dimensions of the wire were known. He was then applying some potential across it and measuring the current. So basically it was a power driven device. So this has some this wire has some good resistance, and I square R is the heat generated by the wire. And he wants to see how for the various cases of what I can say power, this power will go out in the liquid. This will be given out, and boiling will take place. So he wants to find out the relation between Qs and delta T using this particular setup. So he had some water over here. And, he had thought of this experiment, and basically here the power will be calculated using product of E and I as the temperature. And now this wire is immersed in water, so is immersed in water, so it will be transferring heat. The resistance of the wire will be a function of resistance will be a function of temperature, and using this particular thing, he will calculate the resistance by the ratio of E by I, and he knows it is a function of temperature. So using inverse calculation, he will find out the temperature at the surface. The temperature of the water can be independently measured, or basically this is Tsat. This has to be Tsat. So delta T is known, Q is known by the product of E and I. And he said, now I will use this particular setup and try to plot out the relation between Qs and delta T. So is the setup of his experiment clear, guys? Yes, Saikiran and Kaushik. Okay, it's clear to all. No doubts, right? Okay, let me just make some space for drawing the observations. All right. Now, on for this particular graph on the y-axis, we have Q, and on the x-axis, we have delta TE, which is also called as delta T excess. Okay, delta TE, which is basically TS minus Tsat. Now, Nukiyami started his experiment. He started giving power to this particular wire over here, and then the wire started heating. Up to Tsat, it's okay. Tsat is T equal to Tsat. There is no boiling occurring, so everything is almost flat. What he saw was until the delta T of 5, I mean this delta T up to 5, he was not seeing presence of bubbles. So he said that the rate is very slow, very sluggish, and I cannot see any sort of bubbles formed till this point. So this is typically up to delta T equal to 5, and I'll say all this excess is in degrees Celsius. All right. Then after subsequently heating it, he started after, now he was still providing work. Now understand here, in this particular experiment of Nukiyami, okay, Q is the independent variable. Delta T is not an independent variable. Delta T is something that we are measuring. So we can only change E and I. And once we change E and I, we are directly changing Q. So Q is what we are changing, and delta T is what we are measuring. It's an independent variable. It's not a it's a dependent variable. It's not an independent variable anymore in this experiment. So then he's increasing the Q by increasing the potential difference across the wire, and initially up to a delta T of 5, he was seeing a straight relation like this. He said, I am now further increasing the Q, and what I'm seeing is this delta T was increasing like this. It was not a straight line, it was something like this. And then he said, after this particular case, after this particular Q I reached using the wire, I was further increasing the Q experiment in the experiment. I mean, I was increasing the E1 E after this point. ये point reach करने के बाद मैं E बढ़ा रहा था, इससे मेरा Q बढ़ रहा था. My Q was increasing after this point, but the delta T was remaining constant, and also the rate at which the boiling was occurring was also seen to be constant. So he said, basically when I was doing this experiment, I was trying to increase the E. So let's say इधर एक आ गया था E1 वैल्यू से 5 वोल्ट के ऊपर या 100 वोल्ट के ऊपर ये वैल्यू आ गई थी. सो मैं 100 वोल्ट से आगे और बढ़ाने की कोशिश किया. मैंने हल्का सा बढ़ाया, 100 से 102 पहुंचा, एंड व्हाट आई सॉ वाज दिस वायर immediately got heated and the curve went up like this, and at this particular point my wire broke off, my wire melted. क्योंकि क्या हो रहा है, क्यों मैंने हल्का सा बढ़ाने की कोशिश की इधर, हल्का सा, I tried to increase it, but then it suddenly increased the temperature of my wire. It just increased the temperature of my wire immediately, like anything, and it straight away went from here to here. Now you see ये यहाँ पे delta T है, so अगर मैं इसमें 100 गिनूं तो ये absolute temperature of the solid या फिर wire देगा. तो let's say इधर वो temperature था 40 डिग्री या 50 डिग्री, ठीक है. सो एब्सोल्यूट टेम्परेचर 150, यहां से सीधा 1000 तक जंप मार दिया उसने इन हिज एक्सपेरिमेंट, एंड माय वायर ब्रोक ऑफ. I then thought of, the scientist said, I then thought of changing the material of the wire to some other wire which has more melting temperature, right? What I found is वो और थोड़ा आगे तक गया और ब्रेक हो गया. I said okay, no problem. What I do is I heat it to this point, I heat it till this point, यहाँ तक मैं थोड़ा सा बढ़ाता हूँ, एंड जब वो मेल्टिंग टेम्परेचर तक उसका सरफेस पहुंचने लग गया है, बिकॉज ही इज एबल टू कैलकुलेट इट यूजिंग दिस पर्टिकुलर रिलेशन ओवर हियर, जैसे वो इधर तक पहुंच रहा है, आई ट्राई टू स्टार्ट कूलिंग इट, मैं इसका पावर बंद कर देता हूँ, एंड आई स्टार्ट कूलिंग इट, और आई स्टार्ट reducing the power, rather I start reducing the power, and let's see if I can trace back this curve. If I am able to trace back this curve, whatever I have achieved is the complete curve. So he said, let's trace it back. But then when he started to trace it back, he could see a curve like this. यहां तक वो डिक्रीज हुआ, इसके बाद में he could see a flat line, and then everything came off. इधर सब सेम रहा. So while going up, his journey was like this, and while cooling down, his journey was like this. Is this particular experiment and his observations clear? Nukiyami's experiment and observations clear to you? Sorry, Nukiyama. His name is Nukiyama. I'm very sorry. Nukiyama. Saiker and Kaushik, any doubts? Okay. So in this region, what Nukiyama observed was a hysteresis. And he said this hysteresis is being observed because I was having Q as the independent variable and not delta T as the independent variable, delta T as the independent variable. So I could not capture any delta T ahead of this while heating. But while reducing the Q, I could capture it up to here, but then again, I'm seeing a flat line like this over here. So he said that my experiments are okay up to this point, but from here, Q is not increasing the Q does not imply, I mean, Q increase does not imply that delta T will increase. So that's why you are seeing some kind of hysteresis like this. If someone is able to do an experiment wherein he can have delta T as an independent variable, if someone can do it with delta T as independent, he can capture the complete graph. And this is what two scientists, Drive and Mueller, did it. And it is because of their experiments that we are able to get a complete boiling curve for us. And now we'll understand scientifically, rather qualitatively, not quantitatively. I mean, we'll not be doing equations and all. Quantitatively, how this particular boiling curve came into picture. Is it okay? So is everything clear up to this point? Nukiyami's experiment and why he could not gather many things. All right. Cycle and power. Okay, everything. Okay, great. So let me just make a graph. Give me a moment. And so on this axis, we'll be having delta TE, which is going to be TS minus Tsat in degrees Celsius. On this axis, we'll be having Q. All right. And we start our experiment and see what is happening at each part of the experiment. So for delta T from 0, I mean the temperature, when the temperature of this this plate is equal to Tsat, there is no heat transfer taking place. Q has to be 0. It is a flat line over here. From 0 to 5, where Nukiyama also said that no bubbles were formed, but still boiling was there, but no bubbles were formed, and the flux was very slow. That is the case of free convective boiling. So from say 0 to 5, this is a log axis, okay? This is a log axis. X axis has been made into log form. so that we can accommodate the things well. So from here we could see a graph like this. Let me draw it in bold. And this is free convection. So the first region is the free convection region. Okay, in the free convection, what is happening is we have this vessel which was filled with water. Okay, so here the surface is getting heated by the furnace. Then this particular liquid layer is slightly at a higher temperature than Tsat. This is at some Tsat plus del T, and that's why it is able to transfer the heat within the liquid to this point by mode of convection. Here at the top surface, the temperature is almost equal to Tsat, almost, but slightly higher, and hence the water droplets are getting evaporated from the surface, and we are able to see some boils. So अगर घर पे आज कभी मैगी या चाय वगैरह किसी ने बनाई हो, तो you can see initially when you start when you keep this vessel of water on the gas stove, you start seeing some vapors coming out, but if you look closely, there are no such bubbles being formed. So this is the particular case where free convection is taking place, and here the delta TE is less than or equal to 5 degrees Celsius. So and if someone wants to plot it, like how the delta T is varying in this particular case, so this is Y, and this is the temperature axis, this is the Y over here. So this is your Tsat, this is your Ts, right? So the graph will look like this. I mean, I'm just trying to show some graphical things also, because such things are asked in GATE. So this is a temperature distribution for a saturated pool boiling, and you can easily see it in free convection boiling, wherein you know, this temperature difference is very small. It's hardly less than 5 degrees Celsius. And right, so any doubts in this particular case?
No, sir.
Okay, all right. And here one more characteristic, the fluid motion is because of free convection. All right, and this is all that you need to know in this particular case, and I will now term this point as point A. Also, this particular point A is also called as onset of boiling. Okay, onset of nucleate boiling. This particular point A is called as ONB, and ONB is onset of nucleate boiling. Now, what is onset of nucleate boiling and what is nucleate boiling? Let's come over here. So अभी तक टेम्परेचर इतना ही था, इतना ही डेल्टा टी था कि वो वाटर के अंदर करंट्स हीट के ऊपर तक जाए, सरफेस से इवापोरेट होके निकल जाए। अब मैं उसको बढ़ाते जा रहा हूँ, बढ़ाते जा रहा हूँ, क्या होगा, इधर ही टेम्परेचर इतना ज्यादा हो जाएगा इस पर्टिकुलर रीजन में कि इधर ही वो बबल्स फॉर्म करना स्टार्ट कर देगा, ये इधर छोटे 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 छोटे। सो दीज आर कॉल्ड एज न्यूक्लिएट्स, ठीक है। सो स्मॉल बबल्स आर फॉर्म, ठीक है, एंड at the surface, at the bottom surface, at around this point हल्के हल्के फॉर्म होना स्टार्ट हो गया। so nucleate boiling exists, starts from this particular range, okay, and now from here on these particular bubbles that are formed over here, they become they start growing over here, they are now getting formed, and now this bubble will get transported to the top and go out, all right. And as you are increasing the temperature, as you are going and increasing the temperature, more and more and more and more bubbles will get formed, right? More and more bubbles will get formed. So if you closely look again into your that chai making process, you will see कि पहले तो हल्के हल्के वेपर्स आ रहे थे, फिर नीचे वो वेसल के नीचे हल्के 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 बुलबुले या फिर ड्रॉप्स बनना स्टार्ट हुए, या बबल्स, ड्रॉप्स नहीं होता है, बबल्स बनना स्टार्ट हुए हैं, ठीक है। एंड दैट इज कॉल्ड एज न्यूक्लिएशन। न्यूक्लिएट मतलब वो स्टार्ट हुआ है, दैट्स अ न्यूक्लिएट पॉइंट, ऑलराइट। सो दैट्स अलग अलग साइड्स पे। सो since now this kind of bubbles are getting formed, so this is now transfer of the bubble is more faster, so यहाँ पे हमको थोड़ा और अच्छा फ्लक्स मिलेगा। and what I will see here is a steep, sorry, a good enough rise, okay. I'll try to make this smooth a bit and point A. What I will see is a good rise in the temperature, sorry, in the Q with temperature, and now this particular region is just because of the formation of more and more and more and more nucleate sites, and from the region A to B we have now actually started nucleate boiling. We are now into the region of nucleate boiling. All right. So अब क्या हो रहा है, ये बबल्स तो फॉर्म होने लग गए इधर, ठीक है। एक मिनट, लेट मी जस्ट हैव दिस इमेज अगेन विथ मी। So now I'm having some small nice bubbles form over here. As delta T is increasing, hash of these, hash is the number, okay, number of these bubbles are also getting increased, right? And then they are getting separated, and then they will be transporting like this, and they will be getting out, okay. Now up to a limit this is okay, कि we are increasing the temperature, more nucleation sites are becoming active, that means increasing the bubble formation, and so on so forth. But then what happens is we see इतने ज्यादा हो जाते हैं कि वो जेट्स की तरह से बाहर उड़ने लगते हैं, फट 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 फट। या फिर जैसे जैसे एक और चीज आप सोचो कि जैसे जैसे बबल्स बढ़ते जाएंगे, ठीक है, वैसे वैसे हीट ट्रांसफर का एरिया भी तो चेंज होते जाएगा यहाँ का, क्योंकि ये वेपर का वेपर में हीट ट्रांसफर कोएफिशिएंट और लिक्विड में हीट ट्रांसफर कोएफिशिएंट में लिक्विड का हीट ट्रांसफर कोएफिशिएंट इज वे टू हायर, क्योंकि उसमें क्या बोलते हैं इंटरेक्शन ज्यादा होता है, वेपर्स में इंटरेक्शन कम होता है, क्योंकि उसमें डेंसिटी कम होती है, दे आर मोर फ्रीली स्पेस्ड, मोर फ्री टू मूव। तो in a way, once up to a point this is fine, up to a point number of increasing of bubbles is fine, that is actually increasing the rate of our boiling, hence you are seeing a good rise in Q. But once this bubble exceed a limit on the surface, the H will start decreasing, क्योंकि उसको उतना ज्यादा कोई मिल ही नहीं रहा है देने को, right? So this is okay up to B. So basically the region from A to B, we have isolated bubbles formed, and here as we are increasing delta T, number of bubbles is increasing, and hence your Q is increasing. That is good. But from B onwards to C, okay, अब देखो Q का एक्सप्रेशन क्या था, Q is equal to H times delta TE. okay, from B to C हो क्या रहा है, now we are not getting good enough H, क्योंकि इसको उतने ज्यादा पार्टिकल्स नहीं मिल रहे एनर्जी देने को, so H is decreasing, but since delta T is increasing, net Q is increasing. ये एक लिमिट तक चलते रहेगा, H घट रहा है बट डेल्टा T बढ़ रहा है, इसलिए आपका Q नेट तरीके से बढ़ रहा है, राइट? बट देन एक पॉइंट के बाद में डेल्टा T won't be sufficient enough to increase the Q, like ये बढ़ रहा है बट your H has been decreasing now, so एक पॉइंट के बाद में H इतना ज्यादा घटने लग जाएगा कि डेल्टा T का भी कोई मतलब नहीं बचेगा, right? And you will see a maxima coming in over here. So from this particular point B, okay, to a point C somewhere here, okay, I'm just writing C over here. You are seeing a rise in Q. Q बढ़ तो रहा है, but this is at the cost of delta T, and your delta and your H is decreasing. From B to C, your H is decreasing. From B to C, your H is decreasing, but since delta T is increasing, Q is going up. And this will only and only go up to a certain point. उसके बाद में ये खेल बंद हो जाएगा. And exactly यही हुआ. And what you will get is a Q max over here. Q max मिल जाएगी, इससे ज्यादा आप Q बढ़ा ही नहीं सकते हो. ओके, अब इस पर्टिकुलर पॉइंट पे क्या हो रहा है, ठीक है, इस पर्टिकुलर पॉइंट पे क्या हो रहा है वो हमें देखना है. उससे पहले लेट मी जस्ट राइट इट डाउन इन वर्ड्स फॉर यू, इवन यू कैन मेक अ नोट ऑफ देम, मेक अ नोट ऑफ दीज पॉइंट्स. From B to C, H is decreasing but delta T is increasing, hence Q is increasing. Why H is decreasing? Because fraction of surface is getting covered by vapors, and vapors thermal conductivity is low. Again, this is compared to liquids, okay, hence your H is decreasing but delta T is increasing, hence a net increase in Q is seen. All right, now ये चलता रहा, this is all going on and on and on. Now we reach to a point, where the vapor has completely occupied the surface, the bottom surface. वेपर के नंबर बढ़ते, बबल के नंबर बढ़ते गए, इतने बढ़ गए कि इन्होंने पूरा का पूरा एक लेयर बना दिया बबल का, वेपर का इधर. ऑल राइट, अब क्या हो गया, अब जी पूरा का पूरा खेल ही चेंज हो गया. अब तो सब कुछ वेपर के हाथ में आ गया, इधर लिक्विड ही नहीं आ गया, पूरा एच ही चेंज हो गया, पूरा का पूरा एच चेंज हो गया. कुछ नहीं बचा इधर, हल्का सा भी गैप नहीं बचा, पूरा ऑलमोस्ट इसने वेपर ने इसको ये कर लिया। इस पॉइंट पे क्या होगा? यस एनीवन? इस पॉइंट पे क्या होगा?
Q will decrease, sir.
Q
Q
will
विल बी मिनिमम, क्योंकि जब वेपर्स आपके स्टेबली बढ़ चुके हैं, ठीक है, हेलो, जब आपके वेपर्स वहां पे पूरा एक ब्लैंकेट बन चुका है वेपर का, ठीक है, तो जिस पॉइंट पे, एट द पॉइंट when blanket of vapor has been formed, okay, blanket of vapor has been formed, Q has to be a minimum value, क्योंकि वे पूरा पूरा एरिया वेपर से भर चुका है, वेपर हैज अ वेरी लो K, so it will in turn result to a very very low H, and the difference is in the order of tens of magnitude, and आप डेल्टा टी को टेंस ऑफ मैग्नीट्यूड में थोड़ी ना चेंज कर सकते हो एक झटके में, so basically you will be reaching to a point of Q minima over there, a minimum Q over there. So this point comes somewhere over here, all right, and at this particular point okay, let me just try to smoothen it up. Okay, this is the point C, this is the point D. It has now typically gone down, and interconnection is unstable. Okay, let me just figure it out. Let me draw it in a better way. So this has to, okay, hello, just a moment, let me
Yes,
reshare the
sir.
screen, let me reshare the screen just a second. I hope the screen is visible now.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thanks. So yeah, so this was the point C, and this was the point D, where we are experiencing Q minimum, all right, and it's our prime duty to address this particular issue over here. Sorry, what I'm saying. Now it's important to understand what is happening over here. So from point C to D, we are seeing some sort of transition. Over here. So we were seeing free convection until this point, right? At this point, we go to Q max. Here we had nuclear boiling. Q max. इधर से इधर हमने फ्री कन्वेक्शन देखा, यहाँ से इस पॉइंट से, ए पॉइंट से, ऑनसेट ऑफ न्यूक्लियर बॉइलिंग से न्यूक्लियर बॉइलिंग स्टार्ट हुआ, न्यूक्लियर बॉइलिंग होते रहा, बट आफ्टर पॉइंट बी वी सेड कि H is now decreasing as we are moving further, and delta T is increasing, and hence there will be a maxima after which H will further start decreasing a lot, and the delta T even won't be able to cover up for the decrease in delta H, and it will go down, and it will reach to a point somewhere where the pool is now completely having a blanket of vapor at the solid interface, and at that particular point the value of the H will be minimum. At this particular case, your H will be minimum and the delta H would be so low so we should not write it. H would be minimum rather, and it would be so low that even delta T can't help it, and at this point we start seeing a blanket and that Q would be the minimum over here, and this particular phenomena was observed by the scientist Leyden, two scientists Leyden and Frost, and this particular point is called as the Leyden-Frost point, which is the point D in our graph. At this point, we have Q minimum and a blanket of vapor being formed. Okay, is this clear, or there are some doubts? Okay, so Leyden-Frost is a single scientist. Okay, I'm sorry for that. So yeah, so this is what Leyden-Frost had seen, and we call this particular point as the Leyden-Frost point. He had observed it in somewhere around 18th century, and from here now what is happening is now the H has become the minimum value. H has become the minimum value, which is for a complete vapor thing. Now the H won't change much, and now we are keep on increasing the temperature. No problem, हम temperature बढ़ा दे रहेंगे, no matter what. We keep on increasing the temperature. What will happen? Now the H is not going to change much, क्योंकि एक बार वेपर बन गया है, वेपर में उसका चेंज बहुत ही कम होगा. मैं अगर न्यूमेरिकली आपको समझाना रहा तो let me say, if the H was 100 over here, if the H was somewhere about 100 over here, ठीक है, from here to here it got decreased from 100 to somewhere around 4 or 5, something like that, and अब इधर इसके आगे it will be roughly around 4, between 4 and 5 only, क्योंकि वेपर के बीच में इतना ज्यादा कुछ चेंज नहीं होना है उसका, वैसी वैल्यू बहुत कम है. So in the real value cases the values can be around 2700 or 3000 or maybe way too higher than it, ठीक है, depending on what material and all using. These values are very much high. H value is very high. It can be above 5000 also, and here it will come down by the order of 2, order of magnitude 2, like 5000 होगा तो सीधा सीधा 50 के अराउंड आ जाएगा ये वैल्यू उधर, इतना वो ज्यादा ड्रॉप हो सकता है. And the temperatures also, if some this was around 5, right, this temperature was around 10, this was around 40, this one went around 100 or 120, and at 120 around delta T of 120 you could see the Leyden-Frost point, and इसके आगे हम फिर भी बढ़ाते रह रहे टेम्परेचर. क्या होगा, अब Q बढ़ेगा क्योंकि लीनियर रिलेशन आ जाएगा इसके आगे, Q के साथ अब लीनियर रिलेशन आ जाएगा. H has now reached to a minimum value of around 4 or 5, and it is not changing much, and this particular delta T is in the term order of 1000. ये 4 और 5 है, ये इसके सामने बहुत छोटा है, H डेल्टा टी के सामने बहुत छोटा है, डेल्टा टी हम बढ़ाते जा रहे हैं, तो क्या होगा, एक लीनियर लाइन की तरफ फॉलो करेगा. H को हम कांस्टेंट मान सकते हैं. सो you'll see a graph like this, rather a very straight line. And just to smooth out the things, sorry. Yeah, something like this, a straight line, and yeah, and this particular region, all right, from D2 ahead is called as film boiling, wherein essentially a film of vapor is fixed, I mean is formed at the bottom and it is transferring the heat. So एक प्रकार का देखा जाए तो फिल्म बॉइलिंग में आपके मेटल के ऊपर एक इंसुलेशन लग चुका है एंड फिर भी हम इसको हीट कर रहे, ज्यादा डेल्टा टी देके उसको हीट कर रहे, इसको हम इस तरह से भी देख सकते हो. All right, now with this we cover all the 4 regions of the boiling: free convection, nuclear, transition and film boiling. What are the implications of that? What is the physical interpretation of each case, what is happening in over there, and so on. So are there any doubts until this particular point? Just a moment. No. Okay, everyone's saying no, no doubts. Okay, great. Now before closing this lecture, I would just like to give you a reason, an understanding of what actually happened with our first scientist Nukiyama. Okay, so Nukiyama was doing an experiment where he was independently increasing the value of Q. वो सिर्फ Q की वैल्यू बढ़ाते जा रहा था, यहाँ से ऐसे बढ़ाते गया बढ़ाते गया बढ़ाते गया, यहाँ तक उसकी गाड़ी बिल्कुल सही चली, बिल्कुल सही चली. इसके आगे वो Q बढ़ाने की कोशिश कर रहा था. अब मुझे बताओ, इसके आगे Q अगर बढ़ रहा होगा तो डेल्टा टी कहाँ जाएगा? यहां से सीधा इधर घुस जाएगा डेल्टा टी. वो Q बढ़ाते जा रहा है इधर, तो इसके आगे Q बढ़ाएगा तो उसका सीधा डेल्टा टी कहाँ जाएगा? यहाँ पे सिंस 40-50 में था, ये हंड्रेड्स में पॉइंट है, ठीक है. आगे के जो इधर के पॉइंट्स है दे आर अराउंड 1000, तो उसकी गाड़ी सीधे के सीधे सीधी तरीके से यहाँ से 100 से लेके सीधे 1000 तक जंप मार देगी सीधा, राइट. क्योंकि इसके बीच में ये वाला चीज तो वो कभी कैप्चर ही नहीं कर पाएगा, क्योंकि इसके आगे यही क्यू आपको मिल रहा है इधर एंड इसके आगे क्यू बढ़ रहा है एंड चीजें चल रही है. सो दिस इज व्हाट ही कुड ऑब्जर्व एंड देन व्हाट इट डिड इज स्मार्टली वो यहाँ से यहाँ तक थोड़ा सा पहुंचा एंड इधर से उसने रिटर्न एक्सपेरिमेंट स्टार्ट किया. तो वो देखो यहाँ से इधर तक पहुंच गया इधर, एंड इसने इधर से रिटर्न एक्सपेरिमेंट स्टार्ट किया तो यहाँ से इधर तक आ गया. अब ये क्यू मिनिमम इधर आया है, इससे नीचे वो क्यू डिक्रीज कर रहा है, तो कहाँ जाएगा वो? इधर. एंड यहाँ से ये यहाँ से जाते वक्त ये रास्ता उसने नापा, आते वक्त वो नीचे वाले से आया एंड इसी वजह से उसको एक हिस्टेरिसिस मिली. एंड ये केसेस हम लोग रियल इंजीनियरिंग प्रॉब्लम्स में बहुत बार देखते हो. आप अगर अभी हेटेरोजेनियस कैटालिसिस पढ़ोगे तो उसमें जब आपको टेम्परेचर प्रोफाइल्स फॉर अ स्फेरिकल कैटलिस्ट, स्फेरिकल पोरस कैटलिस्ट प्लॉट करने होंगे विद कन्वर्जन, तो आपको यही हिस्टेरिसिस लूप और इसी टाइप की चीज उधर भी दिखेंगी. आई कैन डिस्कस अबाउट दिस इन द नेक्स्ट क्लास. Before closing today's lecture, I would like to ask if all the regions, free convection, nucleate, transition and film boiling are clear to you. Boiling curve is understood, the experiment of Nukiyama is understood, and all these particular dimensionless numbers are clear with you. If you have any doubts, you can ask or... Okay, so thank you very much. With this we conclude today's class. We'll meet in the next lecture.